got with our navies didn't see that going. What's down the list of the...
The turret, it is rather this bad that it is removed. Very confidential, very confidential. Remember, you don't need what you use. So what they did is they covered the French and they put it up here.
And this one is also called suspension. HDSS suspension. You'll see that one is starting to run. It is also capable of updating. It starts out like 27476, 70 gun, and a 2 turret. Inside that campus, there's one comfortable sample of equipment.
Now, the original specification for the Centurion said it had to have armour protection to stop the German 88mm gun. It had to have firepower the equivalent of that 88mm or better. And one of the things they do is they put in the design brief. We know we've already got the 17-pounder. We've got the 20-pounder is just coming along. Make sure this tank can be upgunned in its production. So they purposely build it knowing we might get bigger guns to put on it. And that's one of the great success stories of the Centurion. It starts with a 17-pounder. This one with a 20-pounder. So that idea, we could keep putting bigger guns on it and making that tank still relevant. In the Hungarian uprising of 1956, a T-54A tank was driven into the British embassy compound and allowed the defence of the armour on that Russian T-54 tank. The on the target The plastic explosive inside will pancake out and detonate and send a shockwave through the vehicle. We also liked Hesh in Britain because it was great for demolishing pillboxes, buildings, etc. So they test this on FV4005. They get a couple of Centurion hulls, early model Mark III and Mark V hulls. They dropped the gun on, as I said, it had a testing with a assisted loader system first of all, without the turret structure around it. Second iteration, they go back to two loaders. One going to put in that massive round, the second loader will put in the brass case full of propellants. And you can only, this is such a big gun, you can only fire 2 rounds a minute. Now, they fired about 550 rounds as part of that test process, but the project was ended in 1955. One of the reasons there was because we're now starting to move into the era of anti-tank missiles, so we can put a bigger warhead that will travel quicker across the battlefield on a missile than we can by firing these Hesh rounds. So that's one of the reasons that it drops to the side. The other
mobility and firepower, they call that the iron triangle. And you won't get those things in balance depending on what you want that tank to do. And we've got different examples of that as well. The Leopard is definitely one for mobility. This is a main battle tank that will do 45 miles an hour, which is quick. But it weighs probably 20 tons less than its British equivalent, something like the Chief. The M47 there is doing a round. That has actually been restored by a gentleman called Matt Pyle. And Matt has done a fabulous job on restoring this tank. I was in it the other day. It's in absolutely wonderful condition. As you may know, the M60, and this is a tank that has entered service first in 1959, and it's still in service in a lot of armies around the world today. It's an absolute mainstay of the USA. It has a gun, cast steel armour. You can tell the tank is a big tank that has around for a long time. This one was survived in the Iranians. It performed extremely well in the World War, and it's still around in Operation Desert Storm. So you've got a tank that starts off in the early 60s, masses of modifications at that time, massive upgrades, and it's still around 30 odd years later. There's a couple of peculiar features about it. One of it is that machine gun people are on top. Bit to the full start there. No, we've got it. And then we have this monster. Now, this is the M103. I would say if a child drew a tank, it would be an M103. Isn't that just an absolute classic tank design? It is a heavy tank. Horsepower engine. It's not quite as nimble as some, so its top speed is only in the upper 20s and low 30s. It is very much hard hitting. It's a reaction to the idea that the Soviets were building bigger and tougher tanks, things like the IS-3 that became the T-10. We were also concerned, we'd had a look, rather surreptitious look at T-54, and Western armies were concerned that our guns wouldn't penetrate their armour. So this is really the last of the heavy tanks. Now the little fellow just moving off now is an example of the sort of idiosyncratic unit. This is an Ajax 13. Weighs 13 tons, so it's a light tank. It's designed to be air portable, although when it came out, there wasn't an aircraft that could actually airlift 13 tons. But it's an example of how you put a very large gun in a very small tank. As it goes around, have a look at the turret. It's in two parts. It's what we call an oscillating turret. So the top part of the turret sits on top and moves independently of the bottom part. It's mounted on trunnions like a hammer. This actually had, at one stage or another, 3 different guns. Starts off with a 75mm, then a 90mm, and now this one has a 105mm gun. That is a massively heavy gun for a tank of its size. It's also got an auto loader. It is designed by Porsche, built by Kraus Maffei, and it is a very, very good tank indeed. It has a hard-hitting gun. It's a British design gun, the L105, 105mm, and it's really quite quick. Missions are aimed at the tank and then actually hit either the rear deck or turret from above. That will definitely you have a look at the other 272 drop, one in the museum. You also see it has got really long and tall snorkel. It's designed for deep wading. The thinking behind this is if World War III ever broke out, Warsaw Pact would head west. We have 2 British Army vehicles coming on. Transport behind that. That is because the armour protection has changed. It's not just cast steel anymore, we use composite armour. And in the case of Challenger 1, in 1991, a Challenger 1 of Royal Scots Dragoon Guards, 11 Bravo, killed on a rough tank which was 4.7 kilometres away. That is an extraordinary feat of gunnery. It's a direct kinetic kill. They were firing an APFS DS round, fully round. That's a quite extraordinary piece of tank gunnery. Quick. The original engine fitted to the CDRT range was actually the same as comes out of an E-type jam. That's been replaced by the Cummins diesel. When I looked it up, it said facility can do 50 miles an hour on the road. I can tell you in fact that's wrong. I've been in
As you've said, supporting roles.
And who's using these at the moment?
So we've got light cav and we've also got infantry units that are using the Jackal. And at the minute, there's also the Jackal 3, which is being trialled to give an extra 70 to our fleet.
Okay, and you're part of that trials unit, aren't you, as the armoured trials unit based here at Bolton?
Repairs and recovery can be done quickly, keeping it on the battlefield.
Which, of course, again, very important this day and age. We've only got a limited number of assets. You don't want one loss of one wheel, meaning that asset is therefore completely out of the fight. Being able to repair them, keep them going, and that modularity, that way that you can replace parts of the vehicle.
Manoeuvre Centre, Sergeant Ansell, Sergeant Godfrey and Sergeant Bateson.
Now, an armoured engineer variant like this, we can see mine plough on the front, that wonderful arm there gripping the fascine. You know, back inside the museum, you see, we use the fascine on a tank. in the Cambrai attack in 1917. They've been in the military for centuries, for filling ditches, for being able to...
Design goes back to the 1960s, but it has been massively up-armoured. There is ERA, explosive reactive armour, bar armour, but it's still fundamentally the same vehicle. Now the thing about that, really for me, is that you've actually got young soldiers going to war in a vehicle that fundamentally is a lot older than they are.
Got the chain gun for more accurate targeting, and then we've got the smoke grenade dischargers to allow it to withdraw where required.
Warrior was going out of service, it will be going out of service, going to be replaced by Boxer in the wheeled variant role. It's also temporary in service as a recce vehicle because CVRT's gone out the army. We're going to see some of those new recce variants in just a moment, but still you can see a very...
Is Sam Morgan from Army Trials Unit. And then we have Lance Corporal Middleton from 1RHA.
by Ringley, I guess.
Yes, so it's crewed by Remy, and normally there'd be a crew of 2 with 5 emergency positions, so it can aid stricken vehicles and the crew can...
Going to add diesel to the hot exhaust and quickly create a smoke screen so that your operations are hidden from the enemy.
We're very, very lucky. Whilst the vehicle's moving.
And the whole idea, again, it seems obvious thing to say, but why you need these variants? There's no point having Challenger tanks on their own.
From just under 63 tonne to 75. So if we didn't have an OES Krav, we'd have nothing that's able to do any towing.
Now, our friends from the Royal Wessex Yeomanry have also brought down almost the Challenger naked state, where the basic version that's used for training. One of the other things you'll notice on this and some of these other vehicles going around, what's called the bird table, those funny little platforms on the back. What's your thoughts on Ajax now?
So I was fortunate enough to spend nearly 2 years working on the trials and testing in lethality and mobility, and also in some signal serials, and it's really nice to see the growth that the Ajax platforms has experienced. Whilst it's been doing trials, it's right to the network to ensure that the best assets are being informed and able to react. And when we talk about these increased sighting systems, so what we're used to in the armour community is the primary sight being sight, or on the Ajax, primary sight is its primary sight used for ISTAR, and it's constantly surveying, constantly picking up points of interest and feeding that to the crew.
And I was amazed when talking to some of the household cavalry at Bulford